start?
No.
15 minutes.
And I missed.
Okay, let's see.
Keep everybody's report short. We'll be out of here in time.
You said not to do that.
That's on Wednesday.
No, it's better than.
Okay.
Keep all the reports short. We'll be out of here.
We're back to order. Okay. And Public Works report. Again, it states that it asks council to please forward their questions to the CEO prior to the council meeting so we have accurate response to the questions. Mr. Tamaklo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. If there are any questions for Vern?
I'll just give a brief highlight. I know it's been just about 2 months since we actually presented one because there was no council meeting at the end of September. As you can see, the 49th Street capital project is somewhat complete. It's not complete. When they were paving, they didn't adjust the manholes and the valve boxes. They have to come back and do that. There's some minor concrete work that they have to come back and do, as well as in the spring next year they will be doing a seal coat. If you notice the asphalt, there's little gaping holes in it in places, and that shouldn't be the finished product. So when we did our walkthrough with Knelson, we identified those problems. There's a few other issues that are administrative that we're working on as well because of some disruption to business and those types of things. As well, another capital project, the land application of biosolids has been completed on budget, and the environmental reports have been forwarded to Alberta Environment. As well, the 53rd Avenue sewer is installed. Basically now it's an MD project. Our portion of that project is done, and we're waiting on visual inspection of the pipes that was installed, and then we will be paying out the final minus the holdback for the warranty period. And the 4th capital project, the lift station, is proceeding well. I'm not sure if everybody knew, but they had to bury their trenching cage there. It got stuck and they couldn't get it out. I do have pictures. I've been taking pictures throughout the construction. I just haven't had time to put them into computer form to have council be able to see them.
How big is the trenching cage? Like how big?
It was 12 by 12, and it just got stuck. It was a $30,000 hit that they had to take for that trenching cage.
They couldn't get it out?
Nope. They had that big crane that was setting the barrels hooked onto it, and it was actually pulling the crane like this. It was just solid in there. So they made the call and put it in there. So if anybody knows a salvage company that figures they can get it out.
It's buried.
It's buried, yeah, and all the pipes are the bypass of the existing force main that had to be done. It went smoothly. Everything seems to go very well there.
What would they have been using the trenching cage for? Like
When they set the barrels, they dug the hole big enough that the barrels, that people could work inside that trenching cage for the barrels. The barrels are only 10 feet round, and they had 2 feet of working space on either side.
So did something slump in big time and that's why they couldn't get it out?
The soils in High Prairie are not the best, and that's some of the cost of that lift station as well, is the soils conditions down there. And it did slough in, and it just would not move.
Was there somebody in there at the time?
It was always safe on the inside of the cage where they were working, and that's why the cage is there. It happened, and
That doesn't pose a problem in future.
no, it's below any of the piping and all of that stuff. It's 26.5 feet in the ground to the top of the trenching cage.
last night, just one suggestion, that, just to reduce some of the costs that you guys are sort of forced into right now with snow removal and garbage, was an issue that Linda brought up. That, have you guys ever looked at curbside garbage instead of the back alley access?
They do curbside pickup in the spring of the year when the alleys are going through the frost.
Okay, and so it's just during that period?
And we haven't after the frost goes out and the alleys are passable, we don't, a lot of people use those back alleys for accesses as well.
And accessing their garages.
Yeah, and you start putting curbside pickup and then the cats get into it and, well, they do in the back alley, but it's not as visible as well.
Has the cost ever been looked at though? Like
For plowing the alleys?
yeah, like how much specifically to back alleys?
Not specifically back alleys, but the cost to plow a back alley, we do them probably 3 times a year and you might be saving $7,000 roughly, maybe $3,000 a time, maybe 9.
And what about sidewalk cleaning or sidewalk sweeping? Is that a substantial cost?
That is a more substantial cost in the alleys as we do plow the sidewalks after you get an accumulation of 1 inch to 2 inches of snow.
Mayor Cox.
It says met with West Fraser representatives to discuss servicings. What's happening there?
The last we phoned West Fraser was last week, and they were still meeting with their upper brass as to what they're gonna do in regards to the servicing. We've stayed in contact with them for the last month and a half.
And one of the things that I noticed this summer going up and down Highway 2 is when they were crack filling Highways 2, I mean, and those cracks were big cracks. They had a truck there that had liquid asphalt.
It's liquid tar, and then they put the granulars in with it.
Why don't we do potholes like that?
Because it's quite more cost effective for us to use the cold mix that we're ordering. This cold mix, if you noticed, this year the stuff we ordered has stayed in the potholes. It hasn't left the pothole. That is very expensive what they did there.
But it would be faster, wouldn't it? I mean, if we ever costed it.
Not with the age of our asphalt. Our asphalt is rotten basically. It's over 30 years old. It's lived its life expectancy. We can certainly have a look at it and investigate it, but I'm sure that the way we do it right now is far more cost effective.
Councillor Panasiuk.
Just another question, Vern, where the old daycare was, the log building that was removed from there, that's owned by the town?
Yes.
And so it's one of the properties we own, but is there any plans for that, or
Not at
have you
this-
not, because it's on an old garbage site or something, or?
Basically, it's built on an old landfill. The old daycare was built on a landfill. That's why the daycare was closed down, because of methane gas. We are monitoring. That's part of our landfill monitoring program. There is no plans at this point for anything other than leveling it and seeding it back to grass.
So with the methane that comes out, could we do something there, or are we restrict, we can't put anything on that site?
That would be council decision, is to come up with some ideas. We've thought of a parking lot there for big trucks, and then it comes down to highway. Our access from the highway is difficult at that point, and we've already discussed at this meeting of moving streetlights to that point. So other than making it a parking lot, right now there's really not much we can do with it.
Is there any life expectancy of when the methane is gonna stop escaping from that site to make it?
We are on the hook for monitoring that forever. Being in the proximity of the river at any time, Alberta Environment could ask us to dig that up and remove the landfill from there.
So there's no way we could ever sell that to somebody that wants to put a business or something there, or?
Not with the methane gas there. That's why we're monitoring.
Yeah, Yeah.
the groundwater levels and the gases being released from there.
Okay.
Councillor Rose?
Just further to that, have you ever looked at the cost of the environmental cleanup that could be attached or access the grant funding that's available for that?
We haven't ever, we've just started to even monitor that one again. It had stopped monitoring back in about 1995, and we just started to monitor that Riverside landfill again, and it still has methane gas. We haven't looked at the costs of removing that. It would be substantial. And as far as the grants, I haven't even entertained the idea of removing that at this point.
It's obviously not an easy task, otherwise we'd have more use of sites like Esso.
Opportunity for methane lab, make a park, green space is nice. Mayor Cox?
How much longer before the lift station is done?
They are looking at mid-December,
Okay.
possibly mid-January. That's their target. They just poured the concrete slabs today for the building that houses the generator, and the slab around the barrels which will hold the support crane for removing the pumps.
So is it possible still for that lift station to fail, or is it now it's starting, it's not working yet because the pumps aren't in, right?
No, it's not working yet. It's still running off the old one. Until they're actually up and commissioning that lift station, the old one will not be decommissioned.
And by decommissioning, we're taking those old buildings down as well?
Yeah.
Good.
We took that out of the contract. Public Works will do that ourselves.
Any further questions? Thank you very much. Motion to accept.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Panasiuk, motion to accept the report. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Community Services 5F. This will be Remembrance Day coming up November 11th. The mayor has been invited by the Legion for attending. We need to make sure that we have approval for a wreath to be laid, and we want to make sure we have the finances for that. So if someone would like to make a motion that for a purchase of a wreath.
I'll make a motion that we purchase a wreath to be laid by the mayor or designate at the Remembrance Day ceremony.
Do we have an amount?
Ooh, what do they usually cost? Any ideas? What have we done in the past?
The Legion sells them.
For how much?
I don't know, what did we pay last year? We did. Well, we laid a wreath last year.
Like 300?
Maximum 150 probably.
Maximum of 200, if, you know, whatever we'll say a maximum of 200 just to make sure.
Okay. Would you like the question read back?
Where would you like to take the money from?
Kelly?
Look at the promotions account.
It's getting down there.
Yeah. We'll use her up.
Moved by Councillor Panasiuk that council approve the attendance of Mayor Cox or designate to attend the Remembrance Day celebrations held at the High Prairie Legion on November 11th, 2014, and donate a Remembrance Day wreath in the amount not exceeding $200 to be taken from line item named Council Promotions.
All those in favor? I would encourage all of us to attend, if we have that opportunity, to attend the Remembrance Day ceremony, especially given the circumstance that happened. And down to the staff and CAO reports.
Mr. Chair, just a little couple of highlights because I think there's some inquiry about a TDL on the Tim Hortons side. Investigation shows that there's an ongoing disagreement on that land. There's nothing much that can be done. The ESO have a package there that I've been working on for a couple of years, and it's I think it's a $1 lease for 5 years, and then the town can decide to put up an above ground kind of a structure, but the ESO has every right to ask for that structure to come down anytime. So that's the story of ESO. Because a question about what the evergreen storage water is, and my research shows that that's the tennis court. So that's quickly on that one. I spoke to Husky today. We had spoken earlier on, but today I kind of reiterated asking them why they are not sending a letter to us, and they were very, very clear that the media normally gets hold of this kind of information, and even after speaking to me, they'll be speaking to their media people to make sure that every angle is covered. They have no intention in their budgets for 2015 nor 2016 to get anything done. They just don't have that. They also said that I spoke to Robert Rowe, and until sometime 2017, they can diversify. I think that's the word he used. There's no plan to go ahead with any developments. To sell the land as is to whoever wants it. That's what they will do. The issue around Coxland, I have it in my in-camera to talk briefly about that. Land use bylaw, Harvard Surat, Mackenzie Municipal Services is coming down on Friday to talk about initial planning for the project. I talked to Public Works about capital projects for 2015. We have a good handle on what projects to be done, very exciting though, but I think there's a big catch on that one in the sense that all the projects going forward have to be done from the equity that we have. We have close to about $4 million. What that means is that once you use your equity to build projects, you don't have the end revenue. So if you have a deficit, you can't cover it. The money is there, but you can't record it in the accounting sense as a revenue. And typically we have operating deficits, and when we have end capital revenue, we use that to cover the operating deficit. But in this case, we have enough cash to do the project, but it won't be the revenue that covers the deficit. So that's something that the treasurer will touch on when he makes his budget presentation. Tomorrow we are reviewing the budget at 2 o'clock. And November 12, 2014, the treasurer will be here as well to have a public discussion on the 2015 preliminary budget. We'll make a presentation to council, and then council can decide on how to proceed going forward. Staffing grants, scholarship and adverts, all of those things have been in the paper, and so far that's all I have. And then my to-do list, that most of it has been completed with a lot of the things on the 2015 budget deliberations.
Councillor Panasiuk.
Going back to the Tim Hortons land, there appears to be an ongoing disagreement. Can you tell us what that is, or is that, I don't.
Yeah, the details I'm not too sure that it's an in-camera discussion mostly, but I think it's a legal dispute, land dispute. We're really expanding on what it is, but
Maybe in camera we could know more, like.
I'm sure some people know more about it. I mean, and we can talk about it in camera if you
Okay,
want
okay.
to discuss.
It was discussed in camera, wasn't it?
Who was once discussing?
Maybe one.
Well, yeah.
Councillor
I
Deynaka.
think it has to do with the promotion.
A couple of things. You're meeting with the manager planning for Mackenzie regarding the land use bylaw. Once you have that meeting, is there benefit to the municipal planning committee to meet
and say, this is just to give them a heads up, saying we're going with these people, here's the copy of the land use bylaw, review it, if you have any suggestions, is that would be a benefit
Yeah.
once you, after you meet with this,
Yeah.
this fellow?
Yeah, no, this is a community thing. Municipal Planning Commission has to be, I don't know all the committees that have to be involved, but it's something that it's community driven. I think why Havan and I are meeting is to just have a clear understanding of what the processes will be, but it's something that has to have a buy-in from Planning Commission. I think it's been the subdivision appeals board, we had some problems when it came to appeal process, and then the public as a whole. So it's something that will have the public engaged. So you're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Deynaka.
To your action list regarding the Buchanan Lumber / West Fraser. It says completed memorial wall with the T to take place. Do you have a date for that?
You can do that, number.
Page 67.
I don't know what the date is.
Oh, you don't have a date?
I think this has been worked out between the mayor and the REIT mostly. So I'm involved in it very good.
The Reeve and I talked yesterday, because I was wondering, well, okay, now what's happening with this memorial wall? And he said that, Mrs. McLean is in touch with the Buchanan family gathering pictures for the wall, so.
Okay.
Councillor Deynaka.
I just wanna say that I'm disappointed that we couldn't even get together to put something in the paper when this was done, and it's really unfortunate that Mr. Buchanan has passed before we could even put something together, and that's really, really bothering me, and I'm really upset about this, that we couldn't even get together to put a thank you in the paper. Like, how hard is that?
I agree.
You know, and it's unfortunate now that he has since passed and we're behind the ball. But for future references, I will make note that we will do it as a town as opposed to do it with the MD, because that's where we fell.
Mayor Fox.
I have some questions regarding, you had said that, you're meeting with senior management on the, capital project, treasurer. You were meeting with senior management on Thursday the 23rd, 2014, and then you said something about, council deliberations, or you're meeting with council for public discussion. That's not on the 24th, 23rd, is it? When is our first?
November 12th.
Oh, November 12th.
Yeah.
Okay, so this preliminary budget discussions is really preliminary at this point. You seem to have a good handle on what may appear in the capital budget, and then you're starting your 2015 budget deliberations.
Yeah.
So on November 12th, what will we have, a draft?
The draft, yes, and then the treasurer will be here to do the presentation.
Oh, because I heard him last night talk about, well, it's going to be a status quo budget, and I'm kinda concerned that we're moving towards, same thing as happened last year, where the direction I thought of council was that we would really look to administration to bring forward not a status quo. But I'm leaving that in your hands, Mr. Tamaklo, because I think you've heard enough through the year that hopefully you directed your staff to be,
Okay. Yeah, the way we do things is the senior management will meet and review the budget. If there are any significant things to be done, we will do that. I mean, we take our job very seriously. If nothing ought to be done, we'll present that to you as well. And when you've heard everything and you have some further directions to give to us, and we are all ears. We're here to listen to you.
moving to the action list, you've sent an email on October the Dr. Kevin Worry, it's what, the 22nd now, has there been no reply?
Do you have any reply, Kristen?
From Dr. Worry?
Yeah. No.
Also on October 8th, we asked for a letter to be sent to the Alberta Solicitor General, and it basically had what it was to talk about, and there's been no action on that, it just says being crafted.
Yep, I got it down today. Kristen has it typed?
Not typed yet.
Yeah, but I drafted it and she will type it and have one of you sign it and send it out.
I have a letter that was received from Alberta Transportation regarding the truck traffic on 50th Avenue. Is this letter from Mr. Drysdale, Honorable Drysdale, is that in response to the letter that was requesting the 1/3 split?
Yes.
So he doesn't even talk about the 1/3 split.
And the meeting that we had with him at the AU, it's all encompassing.
All right. Are we doing anything more on this? Did you people read this letter?
Yes.
So you've all seen it?
I haven't yet.
It's in the correspondence file on our website.
Okay. Because he's saying that if you have any additional questions or concerns, please contact Mr. Danny Jung, Acting Regional Director. So I'm wondering, are we going to do anything else, or?
You need to follow it up, I would think. You need to keep the pressure on. Yes.
The last letter that council directed administration to draft with the mayor's signature and the Reeve signature has not been sent out yet. It had to go to the MD's council first,
Okay.
and then they had to approve it and sign it. So hopefully it will go out tomorrow.
So this letter, motion 625/14, that's the letter.
You guys made another motion right after AUMA to send out another letter, and that one had to go to MD Council for approval before the Reeve would sign it.
Well, this one, MD, or 625/14, talks about the mayor and the Reeve signing. So is that the letter that it hasn't gone out yet?
Must be, yes.
Okay. So this response then isn't to that letter.
It's to, we met with the AUMA, met at the AUMA. This is in response to the meeting at the AUMA.
Ah, okay. So that's why he doesn't specifically talk about the 1/3,
Yeah.
because we talked about it, but it was in this letter that, okay.
Yeah. But you can assume that once you send a letter, this is the same letter you get back. Right? Or we met in person asking for the same thing.
Okay. And did we send a letter to the Pioneer Threshman's Association for a marker sign? And I probably am gonna regret this, but I don't remember signing it.
You did.
Oh, that's what I thought. That's why I was gonna regret saying all that.
Right.
And I think that was it then.
Any further questions? Any further discussion?
Yeah. Just a quick note on the letter to the Solicitor General. Just bring this to your attention. I went to commission meeting on Thursday, and then a letter came from the town of Prairie, from the Southeast News, requesting about minutes of meetings that I attended and resolutions that were made. So if you hear of anything, it's coming from the town of Prairie. I don't think that's proper, but that's what the commission has in terms of a request regarding minutes of meetings that I attended.
To see how you voted regarding.
Yeah, and we make motions and we debate issues, and put it as a commission to make decisions.
recommend that we lose?
No, there was no decision to that
Okay,
effect. The
as long
decision
as
is to
that's what it
sustain
was.
equitable funding for the city of Edmonton, because we have a shadow population and we always run into situations. The fact that we can rectify that problem doesn't mean that we have to take away from small towns. The two are just different.
Okay, then we shouldn't have a problem with anybody asking for a copy of the motion.
Councillor Rose.
Dude, just a question further to that, is that not a public meeting? Like,
It's a public information, you can get it.
So the minutes are available? to
Oh, they're
everyone?
available, yeah.
So why would a request have to come by way of letter from the newspaper? Like, wouldn't they just have access to that?
They should have access to that information. It's public information. I seconded the motion for the debate. Strange things happen.
Mr. Walker.
I just wanted to get some clarification from council on motion number 455, 14 about buildings in the 10-year capital plan. We're working on that right now. Was it council's intention to have those buildings assessed?
Sorry?
Was it council's intention to have those buildings assessed and valued and then life expectancies? Because that's the way I read the motion and that's the way I've treated it so far. Or was it just to plot them in there somewhere in the 10-year capital plan?
I believe what the discussion was with Councillor Emter, and I would have wanted the buildings to be assessed,
Okay.
so that you can tell at what stage of
Okay.
the,
That's how I've been treating it. I do have a proposal back to have all of our buildings assessed that I will pass on to Kelly now.
I think the other part of that too, Vern, was having a maintenance plan for each of those buildings and what needs to be done, much like, we do for the other capital assets that we have. What buildings sort of, when does the roof need to be redone and build those kinds of things into
Yep.
the plan.
Then one more question from me is who is handling the recreation facility? They do
Isn't
the
that a
main-
wonderful thing?
They do the maintenance on that building.
you, probably should send a request to the recreation director.
Okay.
Since they do the maintenance, they're
Yeah.
responsible for the maintenance, and therefore they should come up for a plan to make sure.
And would that be part of the assessment as well, since we own the building, or would we do the assessment because we own the building?
Say it again.
Would they do the assessment on the buildings that they do the maintenance on, or would we do them because we own them?
You probably have A, the expertise to do it, and B, we own the building.
Okay.
But if
Thank
it's
you.
a problem, come back again.
Yep, thank you.
Mayor Cox.
And there's also another letter that came in regarding the elevator road in the town of Prairie, and I'm not sure if anybody has seen that letter, but the MD has sent forward the cost estimate to the Deputy Minister of Transportation, Prairie Avenue. They mentioned that 50%, 25%, 25% as a possibility. And they have got the engineering costs as to what it could be, and it's substantially lower than what was anticipated. So this letter actually, it looks like we might be seeing some action on this one. It looks, so maybe keeping up the pressure is a good idea. The more letters we send in,
Absolutely.
the more that becomes the top of mind when they're talking about, well, what can we do?
And when we send out letters to ministries, we're sending it, CCing it to Pearl as well, I'm hoping.
Oh, we always do. This is
Yes.
coming from the MD. The only thing we have copies of this letter. The only thing I'm not too sure is the process is we come back to council and make those kinds of recommendations. So on one hand, we are requesting a 1/3, and on the other hand, we're requesting 25%. So I don't know what That's all, I mean, but it's
I'll take any help.
Any further discussion? Mr. Walker?
My question on the railway, engineering estimates is which company did the estimates on that? Was that Everall Construction?
Yep.
Everall Construction given a request for proposal to, do that road to the MD. They did not include any repairs to failed sections of the subbase.
Did you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so that's.
And I have talked to the CAO from the MD and
Okay.
clarified the fact that they did not include any of the underground sections that may have to be looked at or, sub-base repair,
Okay,
just for
so
grounds
he's
of caution.
aware of, that there might be problems with this.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the problem this causes for us when it's sent that way and undercuts the amount that is really needed for the roads. And we do things a little bit differently. We wish to have full costs sent to the government so that we can have equal and better and equitable distribution.
Without paying attention to the substrate, I mean, we're just putting ourselves right back to where we are. With a pretty
Essentially in the future, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that that's not, we've got to do the engineering on that. We've also talked, as the town has talked to paving companies to do an RFP on a couple of our streets where we know that the sub-base is good. There is no underground pipes or facilities underneath that. One street would be 51st Street from the Prairie River to Kentucky Fried Chicken. That street there could be repaired at minimal cost as well, and that's what we're looking at doing rather than having a detailed engineering done on those streets.
Well, I'm thinking that you can get them to the table, then you can start
Yes.
talking about.
Well, we've discussed Railway Avenue already
Yeah,
with the MD.
so I think between the two of you, you guys are probably handling it well. But for us to keep up the pressure, I think it's just as well to.
Yes, definitely.
I just have one question, Mr. Tamaklo, are we, have we heard anything back from Warren Powers regarding a public meeting for assessment?
No, we haven't had anything from Warren.
Would you like direction or would you be able to contact
I
him?
can contact him again and talk to him. I'll send you an email as soon as I get response from him.
Yeah, and again, I think this goes back to our meeting with municipal affairs. I
Yes.
mean, it's really important that people understand the assessment process. Okay,
I'll send you an email tomorrow.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, a motion to accept CEO's report.
I make a motion to accept the CAO's report as presented.
All those in favor? Unanimous. And last but not least, council information, including correspondence. Again, just wanna make mention of the Chamber of Commerce dinner coming up tomorrow night. $25 a ticket. We do have 2 tickets, is that correct?
Yes.
And, pardon me?
Yeah, I think that's, we received an email that said there was 2 tickets that were donated by the, Chamber of Commerce for the town.
No, I think the actual email said, "Hi Linda, the High Prairie Area Chamber of Commerce would like to invite you and our town council."
Perfect.
So, is it a general invite or is it myself and a councillor?
You know, you and our town council to our small business week. There's 2 free tickets, so one for yourself, and if there's another councilor that can attend, I would, as far as I know, I'm hoping that I can attend. Trish and I will be able to attend hopefully, but So, how do we want to dispose of that ticket, or if you want to take your significant other?
No, you won't go.
You won't go? Councillor Deynaka.
I make a motion that, the mayor and any councillor that wishes to go to avail themselves of the 2 free tickets to the Chamber of Commerce celebration tomorrow night.
Any discussion?
Is this with honorarium or not?
That's something you need to,
I'll probably say without, but I'm leaving that to you people.
so without honorarium?
I would say without honorarium.
I would
This is
say
just
not, yes.
And I'd
Since it's
also
my
be-
motion, I would say without honorarium.
Any further discussion?
And we consider allowing the mayor and the CAO to use the tickets. I have my own ticket already.
I'm not able to go, I've got another town council, Heart River Housing meeting tomorrow, so I can't go.
I'm at a meeting as well.
Councillor Emter?
Is
He's
Councillor
out of
Emter-
town, I think,
Yeah.
until Friday.
If possible, I will attend. And I'll purchase a ticket for Trish. How's that?
So no to the
Would the
CAO?
CAO like to go?
No, Mr. Chair, please.
Are you sure?
Yes,
He is going.
You are going?
I am going, but please.
Wonderful. Okay. Call the question. All those in favor?
So where are the tickets?
Where are the tickets? Or are they at the chamber?
The rest of the letter where it says that there's 2 free tickets for council, it says that they're, you can pick them up with Tracy.
The letter was addressed to you, so.
Pick up Tracy and then that's. Do I need to vote for that or just one?
Sure. Go.
Okay.
Okay. Notice of upcoming meetings. We do have, our communications meetings coming up on the 22nd,
28th and 29th
28th, 29th
Yes.
November.
at 5 o'clock.
And of course, everybody can, again, remind anybody who can attend the birthday ceremonies, and encourage that. Written and verbal reports, Mayor Cox. No reports, Mayor Cox. Councillor Carrier.
No report.
And Councillor Deynaka, as always.
You have my report in front of you. I attached the, what was discussed earlier. I also attached, some correspondences I was having with Bonnie Gray from Library Services regarding, charging of rent to the library. I don't know what, I don't know what Herb and Ken Fesser discussed. I don't know where we're at with that, but that's just for your information.
Okay. Any questions? Good night, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
participation and your patience. Seeing none, motion to accept.
If anybody really wants to look at that, the programs that were accepted by that by that book that Tracy discussed, I do have copies here. And it's not only published in Canada, it's published worldwide, and they get over 200 submissions. So it's very much impressive that these 2 programs got in there, considering what they were up against.
Absolutely.
Can you distribute copies of that?
I can. Could you make copies to anybody who wants them, please, Crystal? I just have, I would just like to say one thing regarding, the reports. We're into, I I'm gonna say a new year of our council, and I really think we should all make an effort to get the reports in the agenda, as opposed to receiving them the day of the meeting. Personally, I like seeing the reports ahead of time. I can look at them, I can read them, I can make my questions. That's my only request. And I move my report for information.
All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Emter is not here. I'll be attending the watershed meetings coming up here right away, and looking forward to the boot camp. Pretty excited. Actually, Councillor Panasiuk, there's the survey, the assessment, risk assessment. Have you done it?
No.
If there's an opportunity, because I'm not sure of all the discussions that you've had with Watershed, if there's an opportunity for us to sit down sometime in the next coming days here and go through that risk assessment, and you can explain some of the issues. Really well done. I like what the topics are, but just so that I'm making an educated decision on it. That'd be awesome.
Sure.
Thank you. Coffee.
Just the two of us, though.
Just the two of us. I believe Tammy Kalita was also saying that she might be interested in attending as well.
Oh, okay.
So,
She would.
okay. And that's all I have to offer. I don't have a written report. Councillor Panasiuk.
Should we move your, well, no
Oh.
report, sorry, I don't have to.
Verbal report. Move my verbal report. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. And Councillor Panasiuk.
Only one meeting that I've attended that nobody else would have been at was a Heart River housing meeting, and not much to report there other than they've been working on capital upgrades, much like the town. They've got a kitchen upgrade in Valley View, a roof repair in Falare, generators in High Prairie and Falare. So those are all progressing and basically on budget, so that's all good. One thing that they came up with was, nothing's really happened with it, but there was an announcement of some government grants for extended care facilities, and whether or not we wanted to get into that game where we would have to then get into healthcare and that's traditionally been not done by the housing authorities, but been done by the private sectors. And so that'll be some discussions of that group coming up. But it would give our people in the region some more options, and we wouldn't necessarily have to compete, because we can, as a housing authority, apply for those grants. But it's a whole different ballgame once you have to get into the supplying the medical side of things.
Yes.
So that's the update. I move my report for information.
All those in favor? And last but not least, Councillor Rose.
I wasn't at any meetings that other people were talking about for intermunicipal, and I did actually take that from his report on that, so.
Was that in this country?
So this was sort of the one thing that I did wanna discuss even with our communications, meetings next week, is when we go to the same meetings, do we do 3 reports on the same meetings? How should we go forward and report, council, so some of council gets to see what the other part of council got to do without having to read 3 reports on the same meeting.
Well, I think it's important that it's an exercise in crafting a well-written, concise report. I mean, you can put them all together into one report rather than having 3 separate reports. We'd be here forever. So.
But further to that, I chatted with Keli today, I know everybody is aware, but just to sort of give you a little update and be aware of the timeliness of this, that town bursary is advertised. And it's advertised in the newspaper and on the website, and the applications are taken just till November the 1st. So we're encouraged to pass that forward to anybody that you know that might be a student or that encourage somebody to apply that may be going off to school or is considering school and potentially getting some income to do that may assist them. But they only have till November 1st to put in an application. And I'd also like to suggest that we consider a named bursary to honor Gordon Buchanan in the, considering that we didn't get a thank you done in a timely way. This may be a way to honor his memory and to sort of have an annual bursary with the money that was already allocated. And I know it's only allocated this year, but maybe we can consider having part of it allocated going into budget deliberations for longer than year to year if we name one after him. But anyway, that's just for you guys to think about, and going forward I'll bring it back with a little more information so we have something to make a decision on. That's it. Move my report for information.
All those in favor? If I may indulge, I left out one thing that I wanted to bring up was the AGLC. The mayor, myself, and 2 members of the High Prairie Beautification attended. I spoke on behalf of the town in support of the High Prairie Beautification application for exemption. Much to our dismay, there has never been a successful exemption. Their comment was that because the rules were so stringent that any possible exemption just doesn't exist. My question to them was, why do you have it in there if, in fact, you know it doesn't exist? You're leading people on. If they're applying on behalf of the special exemption. Very frustrating. Overall, it went well. Some hiccups, but I think that only time will tell. They did contact you.
We contacted twice for further information.
So we're still in the running, so they haven't shut the lid on us yet, so just keep our fingers crossed and hope to hear positive news. That being said, this meeting,
Make a motion to go in camera.
Better not hold adjournment.
this meeting is going in camera. And
Good catch.
good catch. Yes, sir, Bob. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Kelly.